For decades, if you were driving on a road in Southeast Asia, chances are you were surrounded by Japanese cars. Toyota, Honda, Isuzu. They were the undisputed kings. But right now, a revolution is happening. It's a massive disruption that's turning the entire region into the new global battlefield for the auto industry. So what's going on? Well, let's break it down.
Okay, check out this number, 84%. Just let that sink in. That is the staggering year-over-year growth of Chinese auto exports into Southeast Asia. And that's just in the first 7 months of 2023. This isn't just some small trend, folks. It's practically an invasion. And it's being powered by a whole new generation of electric vehicles that are completely rewriting the rules of the game. All right, so how is all this unfolding? Here's the plan. We'll start with the battlefield itself. Then we're going to dive into 3 key markets, each with its own unique playbook. We'll look at the players, the giants, the dragons, and the champions. Then we'll unpack the 2 main ways China is getting in. And finally, we'll tackle the biggest hurdle of all, the trust race. So, first up, the battlefield. What's the spark that lit this fire? Well, it really all comes down to one thing: government policy. See, all across the region, countries are pushing hard for electric vehicles. They're throwing out these huge incentives to bring in investment and, turn their nations into EV hubs. And this big policy shift, it's basically cracking the foundation of the old gas-powered market wide open, creating this massive opportunity for anyone who's ahead in the EV game. Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Now, here's the thing you absolutely have to understand. Southeast Asia is not one single market. Not at all. To really get what's happening, you have to look at the unique conditions in each arena. So we're going to focus on the 3 most critical ones. You've got the super EV-friendly hub of Thailand, let's call it the protectionist fortress of Vietnam, and the completely unique kingdom of Indonesia. All right, let's kick things off in Thailand. These guys have basically rolled out the red carpet for electric vehicles. It's become the poster child for an open, incentive-driven market. And honestly, it's where Chinese brands first showed the world that their new strategy could work, and work on a massive scale. So what's the secret sauce here? Well, it's this thing called the EV 3.5 policy, and it is a total game changer. The government is literally handing out huge subsidies to buyers. They're slashing the excise tax, get this, from 8% all the way down to 2%, and they're cutting import duties for any company that says, yeah, we'll build a factory here eventually. And the results? It's incredible. The market share for pure EVs just skyrocketed to 19% in the first half of 2024 alone. Okay, now let's do a complete 180 and head over to a totally different environment. If Thailand is an open door, then Vietnam, well, it's a fortress with the drawbridge pulled up and guards on the walls. The entire market is built to protect and grow its own domestic industry, which makes it an incredibly tough nut for any outsider to crack. And the walls of this fortress, they're built out of tariffs. Just listen to this, an 80% tariff on imported cars. That's insane. It means a car that's perfectly affordable in China suddenly becomes a super expensive luxury item in Vietnam. So any idea of just, shipping cars in from another country? It's dead on arrival. It's financially impossible. So what's the game plan here? What's Vietnam trying to do? It's a classic market for technology strategy. Basically, they're using those crazy high tariffs to force foreign companies to build their factories in Vietnam. And even more important, they're pushing them to form joint ventures, JVs with powerful local companies. It's smart, right? It brings in money, jobs, and all that great tech, all while protecting their own homegrown hero, VinFast. And you can see it's already working. Companies like Chery and Geely are already partnering up. Okay, our third key market is Indonesia. And we're talking about a giant, right? Over 270 million people. But if you want to win here, you can't just show up and sell any old car. Oh no, you have to understand this one deeply ingrained consumer preference that makes this market totally unique. So, welcome to the kingdom of the MPV. Yeah, the numbers here are pretty wild. 68%. Almost 7 out of every 10 passenger cars sold in Indonesia are multi-purpose vehicles or 3-row SUVs. We're talking about 7-seaters. And this isn't just some passing trend. It goes deep into the family-centric culture and even the history of their tax laws, which used to favor these bigger vehicles. So the takeaway is simple. If you want to compete in Indonesia, a 5-seater car is just a niche product. You absolutely have to have a great 7-seater, period. All right, so we've got the lay of the land. We understand the battlefields. Now let's meet the armies. This whole conflict really boils down to a three-way fight. You've got the established Japanese giants, the new Chinese dragons, and the rising local champions. So, on one side, you've got the Japanese old guard. Their biggest strength? Decades and decades of trust. Their cars are seen as super reliable, super durable, and they've got service centers everywhere. Their whole strategy has always been about localizing their products, like when Toyota built the Advanza MPV specifically for Indonesia. Then, on the other side, you have the Chinese challengers, and their strengths are completely different. Cutting-edge EV tech, really aggressive pricing, and just incredible speed in getting new models to market. Their strategy is pure disruption. They're just leveraging those EV incentives to kick the door down. But wait, we can't forget about those local champions. And honestly, there is no better example anywhere than the absolutely meteoric rise of Vietnam's VinFast. I mean, this company basically came out of nowhere and completely redrew the automotive map in its home country. I mean, just look at how fast this all happened. The company was founded in 2017. They launched their first cars just 2 years later, in 2019. But here's the wild part. In 2022, they made this incredibly bold decision to just stop making gasoline cars. Completely. They went all in on EVs. And by 2024, we're talking less than 7 years after the company even existed, VinFast became the #1 best-selling car brand in all of Vietnam. They blew past giants like Toyota and Hyundai. It's a stunning story. All right, so you see these totally different markets, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia. The big question is, how are the Chinese brands actually managing to break in? Well, they figured out pretty quickly that a one-size-fits-all approach was just going to fail. So instead, they developed two very distinct and frankly, very clever playbooks. Okay, path number one is what we can call the Thai model, or the EV-led CBU attack. CBU just means completely built unit, basically a finished car. The idea is you start by importing these fully assembled EVs to take advantage of all those low tariffs and subsidies. You build your brand name, you get some sales momentum going, and then you follow up with a promise to build a local factory. The perfect example of this is BYD's huge success with the Auto 3 in Thailand. Then you have path number two, which is for those fortress markets like Vietnam. This is the strategic JV-first model. Here, you don't even bother trying to import cars. Your very first move is to find a strong local partner and commit to a joint venture to build a factory. It's definitely slower, it's more expensive, but in those markets, it's the only way in. But here's the thing. Even if you pick the perfect entry strategy, there is one last massive hurdle that every single new brand has to clear. And this one isn't about technology, it's not about price, it's about overcoming the ghosts of the past. The biggest obstacle is something called the信任赤字, which translates to the trust deficit. And here's why it exists. About a decade ago, the first wave of Chinese car brands tried to enter Southeast Asia, and they failed. They failed spectacularly. The cars had a reputation for bad quality, for being unreliable, and for having absolutely zero after-sales support. And that bad memory? It really lingers. It created this deep, deep skepticism among car buyers. So, how do you fix a problem like that? How do you earn back trust? Well, the new, successful Chinese brands have a very clear three-step playbook. First, you have to make a huge upfront investment in a top-notch service and parts network. You build it from day one. You don't wait. Second, you offer crazy long warranties. It's the ultimate way to signal that you have confidence in your own cars. And third, you get your cars tested by the local safety agencies, you get that 5-star rating, and then you shout it from the rooftops. You have to prove to people that this time, things are different. So, there you have it. The battle lines are drawn. The strategies are in play. The Japanese giants, they're finally waking up to the EV threat. The Chinese challengers are pouring in billions to build that crucial trust. And you've got the local champions fiercely defending their home turf. It's a complete reshaping of a massive, massive global market. And with the playbook now clear, it leaves us with just one big question. Who is going to own the roads of Southeast Asia in the next decade?